Should have gotten something that said recording in progress. All right. And I am going to get started. Um, but before I get started, let me go ahead and have you, if you have questions about practicum, things that you're wondering, go ahead and jot them down so that that's not pressing in your brain so that you can hear what I'm talking about while I'm talking. And then if there's something that I don't cover that you still have a question about at the end, I'm happy to take questions. So if you have questions, wonders, curiosities about practicum, go ahead and jot them down so they're out of your brain and you're able to focus on what we're going to talk about today. All right. So let's jump on in. So I'm Dr. Wendy Ducasse. I met y'all this morning. It was great to see all of you. Got a lot of folks from all over the place. And I am looking forward to talking with you today and talking with you throughout your time at school. And yeah, so let's jump in. So today I'm going to talk briefly about what practicum is all about. I'm going to talk about the different roles and people you'll interface with while you are in practicum. And I will walk you through what the process will look like. I'll talk about planning, I'll talk about the interview process, and I'll leave you with some information about resources and contact information should you have additional questions after today. You have gotten a lot of information from a lot of different people, so you'll probably log off after today's orientation and say, oh, shoot, I forgot to ask about such and such. So you'll have the contact information of people should you think of something else that you want to know more about. Skip that. But what is practicum? Practicum is the signature pedagogy of social work. And that is a fancy way of saying this is the time and space where we evaluate your readiness to go in to do the work of being a social worker. The Council for Social Work Education is the accrediting body, and they tell social work programs what it is we must do and offer and assess to ensure that you're ready to go out to do social work. And practicum is your opportunity to practice social work skills. You will apply the things that you have learned in all of your classes, the theory, the role plays, the assessment, the intake, the crisis intervention, the policy work, all the things that you've learned. Practicum is your opportunity to practice those skills. Practicum is also our way of socializing you into being a social worker. It is how you learn to do it. You learn to do it by actually doing it. So we make sure that we are paying close attention to what you're learning, how you're learning it, and that you're ready to go out and do the work. We are all social workers in our department. We are all bound to the code of ethics, and part of our NASW code of ethics is our duty to the profession. And that is where practicum falls. It is our duty to make sure that you are prepped and ready to go to be a social worker. And it's a big deal. Practicum is a big deal, and it's a very important part of your degree. If you don't pass practicum, you can't become a social worker. It is a must. So, and I hope I didn't make anybody panic, but it is very important. One of the cool things about our process for practicum is that a lot of our process is rooted in self-selection because we want you to have an experience um, with practicing the job search and interviewing and connecting and networking with organizations. And when I say we are self-select, it means that we have a database of practicum sites that you can choose from. It's not you saying, oh, I want to work with children, and then your liaison says, oh, you want to work with children? Here's where you're going to go. We have a lot of options that you can explore. We can talk about them. We can talk about which makes the most sense for your professional goals, which makes the most sense for the levels of learning that you need and require. And so we have a lot of availability or a lot of resources in that area. So I'm excited about that for you. Another thing is that requires flexibility, meaning that you need to have flexibility and availability in your schedule to be able to do it. This is a time for you to start thinking about, when am I going to fit in practicum in the middle of my studies, in the middle of my life, in the middle of all the things that you may be doing outside of school. So start thinking about that now. You have to also show that you're ready, and you have to meet the academic and professionalism requirements to go into practicum. Academically speaking, you cannot be on academic probation and do practicum. So if after the fall semester you're on academic probation, you can't go into practicum in the spring. And we do monitor that at the end of each semester. We review if folks are on probation, then we will contact you and make sure that you know that even though you plan for a practicum, you can't go into it in the spring until you're back in good standing with the university. Your practicum also has learning goals. So it's not just you going and, making copies and making coffee and going and doing those kinds of things. You're actually building social work skills. And everyone does a learning agreement, and you work on it with your supervisor, who's referred to as a field instructor, to help you to develop those goals or develop those tasks for your learning. And then that is reviewed at the end throughout the semester, and at the end of the semester to determine your level of learning and to be able to assign a grade. And as I mentioned, you have to have availability in your schedule. So start thinking about when and how you're going to make this practicum happen, because you have to do a practicum. A couple of practica, actually. And it is a job. You're evaluated like an employee of the organization where you will do your practicum. We're looking at your skills around professionalism. We're looking at your skills around the 9 social work competencies, and you will develop your learning agreement with your field instructor. So that's not something that you will do by yourself. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing here? You'll do that collaboratively. They're trained on how to help you with that, and you will work in partnership with them to develop it. So here's some of the terminology that you'll hear frequently during your time here at the university, as well as in practicum related courses and your process. So the Office of Field Education is the office where I work. It's comprised of myself and our faculty liaisons, and Shelby Tarkington, who you met this morning. She assists with a lot of the onboarding pieces that we are required to do. I'm the director. We also have an assistant director, who is Professor Heather Lewis. Some of you, especially those of y'all who are in the ABA concentration, she is the person that you may get have a lot of questions about the ABA component, and she will work with you on those. She's also the assistant director for the online program, or the point person for a lot of the online program components, and works with the ABA program. I see that people are posting questions in the chat or comments. I can't see them. So if you do have questions as I'm talking, please jot them down, and I will pause at the end to answer questions, okay? So the next person that you will work with is your faculty field liaison. So this is a person that you will be matched with within the next couple of weeks, that you will do your practicum planning with. You'll talk with them about your interests. You'll talk with them about any kinds of things that will need to be considered as you're planning for practicum. And they will help you to identify appropriate places to reach out to interview. And faculty advisor slash mentor, that is the person who is your academic advisor. So you're talking with them about the coursework and your course plan toward graduation. And student, that's you. Your responsibility as a student is to hit your deadlines, submit your paperwork, do all the things that you should be doing as you're engaged as a student in our program. And whenever I post something that mentions it's time to do this, it's time to do this, don't forget your deadline is this, the onus for hitting those things, those deadlines is yours. All the process is driven by you. So when I say it's time to request your liaison, requesting that liaison starts the whole process for you. You can't interview with practicum sites until you've met with your liaison. Everything is driven by you. The collaborative database, as I mentioned, some of you are in the St. Louis metro area, and our database is more so filled with agencies that are in the metro area. But those of y'all who are not in the St. Louis area, we do have sites that we have established outside of the St. Louis metro area, and we are actively building sites as we continue to grow our online program. So know that if we don't already have a site in your area, we can definitely get one established and you'll have a practicum place. Sites and agencies, that is just terminology lingo that we use interchangeably to refer to the places where you do your practicum. These are nonprofit organizations who serve a variety of folks based on their mission. And that is where you will be doing your practicum. And your field instructor is your supervisor at your practicum. This is a person that is required to meet with you at least 1 hour a week individually to review your progress, to talk with you about things. They're the person who will be responsible for teaching in the ropes of doing the job there, doing your practicum there. And your task instructor, everyone does not have a task instructor. You might have a task instructor, but you will definitely have a field instructor. Your task instructor can be someone who does not have a degree in a master's in social work. They might be someone that you work with more regularly than your field instructor. They may be someone in the same department that you see more frequently. But that person who is your field instructor is a person who will evaluate your skills. They will complete your paperwork. They'll sign off on your timesheets. And they will be the person that we reach out to from the university to schedule your site visit. And I should mention that your field liaison is the person who will do your site visit each semester. They are your point person if you have any questions or concerns about your practicum. They are the bridge between the university and your site. So they will be the person who will be with you throughout your practicum experience. So once you're assigned to that person, you'll work with them until you are finished doing practicum. So many of you do not have an undergraduate degree in social work. Some of y'all are coming in brand new to social work. So if that is you, you will complete a foundation practicum. That is a 1 semester, 300-hour practicum experience. When you complete foundation practicum, you complete that at the same time as a 1-hour seminar course. And that seminar is a time for you to sit down and meet with your classmates, talk about what you're learning, what you're doing. We talk about professionalism. We talk about your learning agreement, any hot topics of things that are happening in your agency. And it's a really nice professional development collaboration opportunity to work with people who are at different agencies and just learn a lot more about the social work profession. So a requirement to complete generalist practicum, I mentioned earlier, of course, you have to be in good standing with the university. 5750 needs to be completed before you do practicum with a B or better. And then there are other courses that you can take prior to practicum or concurrently at the same time. And foundation practicum must be taken within the first 18 hours of your program. So the next, let me walk back real quick. So your generalist foundation practicum is just you're getting some basic learning and knowledge about social work. You're practicing your skills. You might go to a site, not necessarily where you are most interested in going. For example, I tell students who have been on my load to do something that's a little bit outside of your area of interest, because you're thinking about ultimately building skills. It's not necessarily that you're going exactly to the place that is in-game goal for you in terms of employment. So maybe you are someone who's a clinical student, but you want to get some more macro perspective. So you might do something related to policy, or if you are a macro student, you might do something that involves working with young people, or something in crisis intervention, because you want to get a wide variety of those experiences to develop skills that you can use regardless of your path in social work. Assessment is assessment. And while it might be with an individual, you will eventually still use that if you even go into macro work. And then once you move into your concentration experiences, that is where you go a lot deeper with those skills and taking them to the next level with your area of interest. So maybe that is where you decide, oh, I really want to do medical social work. So then you're taking those foundation skills and applying them in a medical setting. Or you want to do school social work, or you want to work with veterans, or those of you who are macro, maybe you want to do fundraising and development work. Whatever your interest is, you're taking those foundational skills and taking them to another level, and you are building and expounding on them in that concentration experience. And your concentration practicum is 2 semesters back to back. And each semester is 300 hours. So you'll have a longer amount of time to really get into the organization and really build your skill set. The beginning part, you're doing probably more observation and learning the lay of the land. And then you're really getting deep into, maybe if you're doing clinical work, having your own caseload or leading your own groups or things of that sort. So you're taking it to a more deeper individualized level based on your areas of interest and learning, and also increasing your independence at that setting. And so with concentration, you'll do seminar just like you did in foundation, except you're only doing it one of the 2 semesters. You would do it that first semester. And it's at back to back at one site for that concentration experience. And then ABA is a little bit different. So those of y'all who are ABA concentration, you've met with Dr. Passage and Professor Lewis already. You know that you have more practica semesters because you, at the end of your experiences, will be sitting for your you should qualify to sit for your BCBA exam. And you require more tasks and more in different areas so that's why you have additional semesters or additional practicum experiences so that you'll be ready for sitting for that exam. So you will speak directly with Professor Lewis and Dr. Passage about those ABA components of your concentration experience. So this is just a summary of what I talked about already. Remember, when you get into your concentration practicum, you will have a seminar for the first semester of it. Second semester of that concentration, you do not have seminar. So here are some of the things that people are most curious about. When can I do practicum? How does that look? How many hours do I need to do, Dr. Ducasse? As I mentioned, foundation practicum is if you're someone who does not have your bachelor's in social work, you must do a foundation practicum. If you are someone who comes in with your bachelor's of social work degree from an accredited university, you start with your concentration practicum. You don't have to do a foundation practicum if you come in with your BSSW or your BSW. But generally speaking, most practica take place during the day. There are some sites that do have some evening and weekend availability, but they're very few and far between. And the reason for that is that you must be supervised by a field instructor. You must have someone on site to be able to provide that supervision, to be able to provide you guidance through your job. And there are not enough field instructors who are offering that on evenings and weekends. So primarily folks are doing it during the day. Your practicum experience each semester can be between 10 and 20 weeks. And if you do the math, it averages out to about 15 to 30 hours a week. So you'll need to figure out how that is going to figure into your day and your weeks as you are navigating and finishing your programs. So there are a few special options. You see those on your screen. We have concurrent practica and block practica, and those are really specialized. And if it's something that you are thinking about, then you'll talk with your faculty liaison about that once you get matched. Place of employment practicum. Occasionally we have folks who do want to do place of employment practicum, and there's very specific criteria for that. So if you are thinking about a place of employment practica, like if you work at a social service organization that's a nonprofit, if you're thinking about doing a place of employment practica, then you will talk with your liaison about that, and they will work with you to explore whether that's appropriate for if the agency can meet your learning goals, if they can address all 9 competencies, if there's someone to supervise you, all the things. There are lots of pieces that must be in place in order for that to be approved. And there is paperwork that you'll fill out for me to review, and I'll take a look at it, and I will let you know whether a place of employment practicum is approved. And if you do a place of employment practicum, you can only do it once. So for those of y'all who do not have a bachelor's in social work, and you'll have to do your foundation and concentration practicum, you can only do your place of employment one of those. You can either do it for foundation or concentration. You can't do it both. Another piece that is important is some things that we need to know as we are working with you to get you placed and get you connected with organizations. If you have anything in your background that could impact where you are able to go as a practicum student, if you have any misdemeanors, felonies, anything that may show up on a CAN check, which is child abuse and neglect, elder abuse and neglect, any kinds of those things, any kinds of convictions, I need to know about that. We need to have a conversation so that we can start thinking about your placement options. There are options available, but we need to be strategic and identify those early so that we are not connecting you to agencies where you would not be able to go. Because many agencies will require a background check, fingerprinting, things of that sort. So if anything pops on your background check that we're not aware of, then you can't go there. So if you have anything like that on your record, reach out to me so that we can talk about it. When we get ready to wrap, I will post my email address, and I will also post my Calendly link if you need to meet with me on Zoom or something. But let me know, and we'll talk about it. Okay. Now, so let's talk a little bit about what happens once you get to the agency. First of all, the person who's your field instructor must meet certain qualifications. They must have been with the organization for at least 2 years and I'm sorry, I misspoke. They must have had their MSW for at least 2 years, and they must have been with the organization for at least 1 in their current position. And all new field instructors are trained by us so that they know what the expectations are, what they need to do, and how to address your learning agreement, how to troubleshoot any challenges, any of that kind of stuff. And then lastly, your field instructor cannot be a relative. They can't be a friend. They can't be a neighbor. They can't be a previous boss. You can't have any previous prior working relationship with them. So these deadlines are already posted in Canvas, but I want you to see them. You can screenshot this slide, but you'll also have an opportunity to review it once Becca gets the presentation posted again. But I will come to your class, those of you who are in 5750, and then I will post an announcement that says it's time to request your liaison, and I'll show you how to do that. The deadlines are posted here. And it's very important that you hit those deadlines, because remember, your request for the liaison is what drives the process. Once you request your liaison, I can match you. Then you can reach out to them to get scheduled to meet. Then you can go and contact organizations. Keep in mind that other students are also contacting organizations, and they might be contacting the same ones as you. So the earlier you do what you're supposed to do, the earlier I can do what I need to, and then you can talk to your liaison and go out and start contacting organizations. And then the confirmation of practicum is due at the beginning of November. And there are a lot of reasons that we have early deadlines for things, because we, in my office, have pieces that we have to complete to make sure that you can be ready to onboard and start when the semester begins. So these are the steps along the road to practicum. So you request to do your liaison. You complete a HIPAA online course. It's like an hour webinar it's asynchronous. You listen to it, you take the quiz at the end. once you are matched to the liaison, I will send an email to you that says, congratulations, you are on the road to practicum. Your liaison is Dr. or Professor so-and-so. They expect to hear from you. Please reach out to them directly. And so you two will talk. Before you meet with them, if you're a student who's in the St. Louis metro area, check in the database, look in the database to see what organizations we have, some that you're possibly interested in working with. Come to your meeting with your liaison prepared to talk about interests. That is important. That meeting should be a working meeting. Come prepared for conversation. Don't come in and say, well, I haven't had a chance to really think about it. I don't know, because that's kind of like a time suck. Like, your meeting with the liaison should be action, so that you can say, I'm thinking about these 4 or 5 organizations. And then they can say, oh, okay. And then they will say, maybe consider this one if this is your interest. Here's another one. Here's a point person, etc. Because it's possible that you may come to the session with your liaison with 10 organizations, and some of them are not taking students for that semester, or they're full, or something else. So you want to have backup plans. So after you've met, then you can start contacting the agencies to see if they have availability and schedule interviews. Then you complete your interviews, and then you just kind of decide, is this where I want to go? And then the agency also, because it's kind of like a job interview, they have to be interested in you, you have to be interested in them. And if you're both interested and you accept, then that's where you go. And then once you do that, then you submit a confirmation form. That's what tells my office that's where you want to go. And then Shelby and I are doing paperwork on the back end to make sure that your field instructor is trained, that we have an affiliation agreement with the organization, and all the pieces of paperwork that must be in place in order for you to do a practicum there. And then once you've confirmed, then you register for your practicum course in course registration, and also your seminar. And then you do your practicum. Talked about this part already, so I'm not going to jump too much into that. But for those of y'all who are outside the metro area, it can be helpful. Start thinking about where you might want to go. If you know of organizations already, our liaisons also are aware of organizations in your area, so they may already have some ideas too. But be thinking about places in the community that you may be familiar with, that you might be interested in working with. Leads me to this slide. So if there is an organization, those of y'all who are in the metro area, or even if you're outside, if there's an organization that we're not familiar with, let your liaison know so they can vet the site, because again, they have to meet certain criteria to make sure that they can address your learning needs. We talked about this briefly, but you make sure when you register for practicum, you register under your liaison. They all have a section number, and they'll tell you what their section number is as you get to that step. And then seminar, you can take with any liaison for foundation. And then once you get to concentration, you can sign up for any liaison that is teaching in your concentration. So if you are a ComOrg student, once you get to that level, you want to make sure to register for the concentration seminar for community and organization, or for ABA, or for clinical. So once you're in practicum, these are some things that you'll want to think about. You'll talk with your field instructor and your site to arrange your start date. You'll need to do any onboarding paperwork they require. They may require background checks, vaccinations, immunizations, etc. So they will give you all that information. Think about parking arrangements, ask questions about that. Ask them, what kinds of stuff do we wear here? You might, if you're in a hospital, they may have certain attire. If you are working with children, they may say you can wear jeans or whatever. But, at certain places, if you're going to court, they expect you to dress in different attire. Ask them about orientation or onboarding, any of those kinds of things. And then once you get there, be ready to shadow, read, ask questions, observe, learn, and jump in to do the work. And then a couple of pieces to keep in mind. There's a Canvas page if you're not already on there for things related to field. It has deadlines, when you need to complete everything by, reminders of that. I'll post announcements periodically. Like once it's time to request your liaison, I will post an announcement. So make sure your notifications are on in Canvas so you're not missing those things. And then there's also a Canvas page for every course. So once you're in Practicum, there's a Canvas page for that. And then your learning agreement and all of your paperwork related to Practicum. So your learning agreement, your request for liaison, your timesheets, your evaluations are all completed in Experiential Learning Cloud. Those of y'all with undergrad degrees, you may have heard it referred to as Tavera. It used to be called Tavera, but it's now Experiential Learning Cloud. And I'm getting used to that language too. So you might hear me slip up and say Tavera. And then, like I said, there's a learning agreement that you'll complete. You'll get reminders of when that is due. And some of this I've already mentioned, but you will sign a code of ethics statement. The university provides malpractice insurance as part of our affiliation agreements. The agencies also have insurance. And just a reminder, you meet with and reach out to agencies after you've met with your liaison. These are the contact people. I'm at the top, Dr. Wendy Ducasse, the director of field. Feel free to screenshot this if you need to send me an email a little bit later. Professor Lewis is on here as well for ABA, Shelby Tarkington, and then liaisons, folks that you'll work with to plan for practicum. Professor Crow, Professor Deutsch, myself, Professor Lewis, Melissa Morgan, and Professor Richter. So that is my presentation, my slides. Let me turn my camera back on because I hate watching myself talk. It's just weird to me. So let me check in the chat real quick. Okay, I answered Naomi's question already. Mary, I'll provide you with, I'll show you where to find that. It's in the Canvas page. And Seth, the database, you may have jumped in after I mentioned the database. If you're in the St. Louis metro area, we have that database. And then once you're matched with your liaison, Lanice, if you're looking for paid practicum in that particular area, they will be able to talk with you about that. Let's see. Daniel asks, does your practicum have to be completed at the same facility? If a site is not listed in the database, it is still an option, possibly. It depends on, it has to be a nonprofit. They have to serve a variety of different folks. They have to be able to meet all the competencies. They have to have someone on staff that can that meets the qualifications to supervise you. And so if you're thinking of someone who's not in the database or already listed, let your liaison know, and then we meet with that site to vet them to make sure that they can meet your learning needs. And tell me a little bit more, Daniel, when you say, does the practicum have to be completed at the same facility? Say a little bit more.
Well, I was wondering, like, because so we've got like the generalist practicum and then advanced 1 and 2. Do we have to stay at the same place for, I mean, I imagine it'd probably be ideal, but if things don't work out, are you able to like switch facilities that you're doing practicum at?
For your good question. For your concentration practicum, you have to be at the same place for both semesters.
Okay.
Foundation and concentration need to be different. So you might be, I'm just making this up, you might be at the United Way for your foundation practicum. And then when you go to your concentration, which is in your area of interest and specialization, then if you're, school district, let's say you want to be a school social worker, then you would be at, any town school district. So, but your concentration is 2 semesters at the same location.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Ashley, that kind of led into that. Are there options for the school setting? Yeah, we do have students who are doing school social work practicum, and that's actually my background and area of interest. So if you are in the St. Louis metro area and have questions about that, happy to answer those. But we do have sites that are school districts in our database. And then people that are in other states have also been placed at different school districts too. So we do have those options. Let's see, Naomi's question. I know you said, You cannot be supervised by a current supervisor. If you wanted to do a place of employment practicum, they cannot be your supervisor. And so we have had folks that, like there's an organization, we had a student that worked in an organization in Illinois that worked in like foster care and adoption, but they had another unit that was for just general case management. So they were able to go to that part of the organization because it's a different program. They serve a different population. There wouldn't be any intermingling of the same clientele. And she had a different supervisor. So that worked out. So if you're thinking place of employment, then once you're matched with your liaison, talk with them about that, and then they will get a little bit more background to see if that works. And if there's somebody that meets the qualifications to be your supervisor, that's not your current supervisor, and then you can submit your proposal. So yeah, yep. Other questions? What else are folks wondering about?
I have a question.
Hi.
Hi. So I don't have the class that you were mentioning for next semester. So does that mean I'll probably meet with you in January?
What do you don't have the class? What do you mean?
I think it was 5750.
Oh, okay. So you would be taking it, so you would do yours, and then I'm assuming you're requesting to do your practicum in the summer? Is that what you
Probably.
for? Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they just put me in two other classes. Like, hold on, I'm gonna go back to it. So they put me in diagnosis and assessment and then advanced clinical practice with individuals.
Oh, so then you have advanced standing. You have
Yes.
a bachelor's degree in social work. Yes. So you could still, you don't need to take 5750. 5750 is only for folks who do not have their bachelor's in social work.
Oh, okay.
So if you have advanced standing, then you would, if you want to do your practicum in the spring, then you would request your liaison in the fall.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And one other thing that I want to say about this, and I'll say all this stuff again in a couple weeks for those of you who are being 5750. Some practicum experiences are limited based on their cycle. So, for example, those of you who are interested in school social work, you have to do your practicum fall, spring, because that's the way the academic year rolls. Like if you wanted to do one at the VA, if you're interested in working with veterans, sometimes they only have practicum options that are fall, spring, or they might have a summer, fall, rarely. So be thinking about the population, where you're going. So you may push to later based around that. You can always do it. Like if you decided that you wanted to do it in spring, but you're like, I really want to do it at this particular place, then you would wait. But however, if you need to do, I'm sorry, however, if you are doing a foundation practicum, those of y'all who don't have your bachelor's degree, you need to do your foundation practicum within your first 18 hours of your program, because a lot of what you need to take later on in your program has prereqs of you having completed your first practicum. So you'd be kind of like at a standstill if you don't do your foundation practicum in those first 18 hours. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. What other questions might you have for me today? Okay. Like I said, I will be in 5750 in a couple of weeks. So if you think of anything else, you can either hold it till then, or I'm going to put my email address in the chat along with my Calendly link if you want to meet with me to talk about something personal, private that you don't want to share with other people. So that's my Calendly. And my email address is my first name and last name. I'm just gonna put Gmail. That is not my address. It is SLU. My brain is fried. I can show you the database. And I actually, let me show you the Canvas page because it's on the Canvas page how you get there. Does everybody have a couple minutes to stick around? Okay, if you don't want to stick around, you can leave, but anybody who wants to see this information, feel free to stay, and this will be recorded. So if you miss it today, right now, it's okay. And I'm not keeping a list of people who leave early because it's okay. All right, let me see. And I don't keep silly lists like that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. And I know that they showed you the like my slew stuff, all the tiles. And you may already know this, but you can move your tiles around to whatever you want. So like the frequently used things, some of the stuff y'all don't have. Don't worry about it if you don't have it. But you can move these things around as much as you want. If you have frequently ones that you use frequently, then you can move them in the order that makes sense for you. My computer is moving slow. Okay. All right. And if you've not already accepted the invitation to join SSW Field and SSW Resources, please go ahead and do that, because the majority of what I talk about, announce, share resources about, will be on here. When I match you with your liaison, I will send you an email and I'll copy your liaison on it. So you'll see that there. So I'm assuming you've all been on the Canvas page for Field. So this is it. And you'll just go to modules. And some of this you may not see because you're not the instructor. Some of it I can see that you can't see, but you should be able to see it. Let's see. I'll turn it on. All right, that's fine. Okay. So these are all the things that you should be able to see. All the helpful guides, eventually you'll need those once you go into Practicum. Planning for Practicum. That's where the database is. Planning for Practicum. Explore the Field Education Collaborative Database for Practicum site ideas. So you'll click on that, and then it's linked in here. When you sign up for it, you must use your SLU email address and password. Click on it here. Now, if you don't use your SLU username and password to sign up, they won't let you in. We share the database with University of Missouri St. Louis as a collaborative. We work closely with them and Washington University's School of Social Work. And so they are the host of the database. But if you want to log in, set up a username and password, then you go through here. They will give you access, and you can explore it. But remember, you can't reach out to organizations until you have met with your faculty liaison. Okay. Any other questions before I send you off to take a deep breath and get yourself ready for school next week? No? Okay. I'm happy to have you all here. I want to welcome you to St. Louis University. If you do have any questions about anything related to your program, even if it's not my area, I am happy to chat with you, connect you to who it is you might need to speak with. But if you do have practicum related issues, questions, concerns, feel free to schedule something with me using my Calendly, or send me an email and I will do what I can to get you taken care of. So welcome, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great weekend, everybody. Game time is next week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.